I will be exploring every abandoned fast food place exactly 1 year later from when I first saw them. This includes everything from Arby's, a creepy KFC, McDonald's, and plenty others. Abandoned buildings can either get remodeled right away or sit for years. So I'll be revisiting these locations to see if they look any different. First up is Taco Bell.
It's great to be back.
There was nothing too special about this location, besides from the fact it had the old logo for longer than most. But eventually it closed its doors sometime in 2020. It was already abandoned for 3 years when I first came here, and now the only big difference is that it's been 4 years.
So honestly, there's not much of an update because the building hasn't changed at all. It still looks the exact same after 1 year. I mean, there might be new spray paint, but that's about it. As you can see, it has the classic roof, and you can still make out the old Taco Bell logo. After all these years, you can still see it. And then out in the front over here, you got the same sign. The logo's been removed, but that bottom part is still there. Drive-through, open 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. Definitely not open anymore. And then let's take a quick look inside. It's completely empty. I'm not surprised.
Now, although this abandoned Taco Bell is interesting, I found a better one while filming another video. This abandoned location is the original building design for Taco Bell and has sat here closed since 2013. There isn't much to see on the inside, but up on the top, if you needed any evidence of what this building once was, the old label scar is clearly visible. But back to the other Taco Bell, I mentioned last time that there was a blue roof Burger King next to it, and it's still there, but is now also abandoned.
I did film many videos here, so I have shots of what the inside looked like, but it's no longer open. So the logos may have been removed, but you can still see the blue roof. And if you look on these, you can clearly see the logo. And this one's kind of interesting because I feel like you barely see ashtrays anymore. And if you take a look inside, everything is still in there. Also, this may seem random, but keep the shape of this building right here in mind for the next location.
Now, this Burger King may look the same, but as for the next location, it definitely doesn't.
Well, this looks completely different.
This was an old Burger King that had shut down when I filmed the original video. The inside was completely gutted, and you could even see the dumpster out in the front. But I wasn't sure what was going to happen with the building, if it was just Burger King remodeling or a new place being put in entirely. Well, 1 year later, I got my answer.
Now, usually this is when I would show what the building looks like, but I don't really plan on staying long since it's not even a Burger King anymore. But there is one thing I want to point out.
If this design on the Chipotle building looks familiar, that's because it's the same slant on the old Burger King location. They all used to have that design, and Chipotle kept it right here. Now, if that was a location that changed right away, we have the exact opposite of that with this next spot. This old KFC is not only abandoned, but has sat here for almost 15 years now, and looks just as terrible as you would imagine.
If there was one building I wasn't looking forward to revisiting, it would be this one.
Like I mentioned in my last video, there is almost no documentation of this place existing at all. Reviews for it can't be found, and besides for what's on Google Maps, here's the only photo that exists. This is something you would see straight out of a horror movie. But as I was looking around here, I found something I didn't see last time.
Not surprising at all, this building hasn't changed one bit since last year. On the building itself, at the top on the roof, I was hoping the paint would be chipped a little bit so you could see the original color, and you kind of can, but really not at all. So for now, you still have this brown color. Out in the front here, you still can see the original sign. It no longer says KFC, but beneath that, it does say drive-through. Way over here, you still have the original entrance and exit signs. The other one's completely gone, but somehow this one's still here. I don't know how that paint is staying on so good, but after all this time, you still can't see what's beneath it. This is the best paint ever. Over to the building itself, it's pretty much what you see is what you get. Bunch of spray paint, all the windows are boarded up. Around the back, you have the original drive-through menu, and even though I've been here before, I just noticed this now. Take a look at that. You can see the outline of KFC at the bottom there. You got the logo right there, and then KFC. And then around the other side over here, this is where you would pick up your food in the drive-through, and really, what can I say? Look how bad this is. I am honestly amazed that after all these years, it still sits here. I feel like after a couple of years, they would see the condition and be like, okay, we gotta take it out, but clearly not. But for whatever the reason is, it's still here, but honestly, I don't want to be anymore, so I'm gonna leave.
After leaving that place as fast as possible, I arrived at the next location, and that would be Arby's.
It's funny, I thought this would be an interesting video going back 1 year later, and they would all look different, but for the most part, they're all the same.
This is one of the few times where almost everything is left behind in an abandoned building. At the very least, they usually remove the tables and chairs, but for some reason in this building, everything was left the way it was.
Out in the front here, you still have this entrance sign. Unlike KFC, they just took this one out. You also have where the main sign would be. It was just one of the generic ones, not the classic big sign. And then on the building itself, you can see the very visible label scar of where the Arby's logo once was. Around the back and through the drive-through, this is of course where the dumpster used to be. And then you have the drive-through menu screen with the speaker speaker. Hello? Is anyone here? Is it open? And then of course over here, this is where you would order your food. But now let's take a quick look in here because last time it was really cool. Yep, that's exactly how I remember it. Pretty much like they closed yesterday. Over on this side, you can just see more of the same thing. There's another window on the side. It's just a door. I mean, it's been around 5 years now since they shut down, so you would think some stuff would get removed, but nothing has.
Now, before we go to the final location, I have to give an update on this McDonald's train. In the last video, I mentioned how this McDonald's location used to have a train sitting out in the front of it called the McRailroad. I pointed it out because I found it to be very unique and felt like not a lot of people have heard of it, especially since there's no evidence of it once being there. Many people that did see it most likely forgot about it. But what I didn't even consider was that the train could still be out there. I assumed since it had been over 10 years when the train was removed that it was long gone and never to be seen again. Well, I was wrong.
Look at this. That's right, behind this gate is the original McDonald's train that was at that location. I couldn't believe when I found this because I thought this was long gone, but somehow it is still around. This is the exact one that's in those photos. Now it is behind this gate, so I'm not gonna go past there, but I did reach out to the place to see if I could get a tour of it and go around or whatever, but they haven't reached back yet, so I'll see how that goes. I would love to check out the inside of that train to see what it looks like today.
Now, there actually is a recent photo of the inside because the owner was trying to sell it, and from this photo, it still looks good. It's not as beat up as I thought it would be.
But there's no doubt that is definitely it.
Now we move on to the last location, and that would be none other than McDonald's. This was a 50s themed location, as you can see with these few photos, all taken by this person on Pinterest. But the theming explains why the building looks different from most. I've been to this building so many times that I've lost count. If you see my other videos, then you would know I've been here a lot. But that's because I find this building very interesting. Just from driving by, you wouldn't know this was a McDonald's, but if you look close enough, the signs are there. And I even found a new piece of evidence that I've never shown before.
You almost never see abandoned McDonald's, and if you do, they get removed in less than a year, but not this one. I mean, technically it's an abandoned good to go, but it was a McDonald's originally, so I'm going by that. But of course, I have to show you all the indications it still has that this was once a McDonald's. Of course, over here on the ground, you can still see the McDonald's M, and then beneath it, it just said drive-through. As you make your way to the back, they still have the old drive-through screen. And in this I mentioned last time, right here was a pole with one of the Ronald McDonald characters on it. And then of course on this end, between these two windows is the biggest indication of all time. That's clearly the McDonald's logo. And then if you take a look inside, it actually looks like some stuff has been moved around. And then if you take a look in one of the drive-through windows, it's just the empty kitchen. And then for some reason on the wall there, it says M with hearts. But what if I told you there's actually a third indication that I never showed before? It would be right here behind this poster. This thing is starting to chip away so much that you can see the original underneath it.
Now, even though this building has sat here for almost 15 years, its days might be limited because right across from it was an abandoned Blockbuster that has now been taken over by a new store. So who knows if this building is next. That's it for the abandoned locations. Although most of them were the same, I still enjoy checking them out again. Make sure to subscribe, and I am now selling merch. Click the link in the description to get yours today.